Dr. Velnoros stared at the massive viewing screen as the recovery ship's swift current approached their medical vessel. Her 4 eyes blinked in sequence as she processed what she was seeing through the docking bay cameras. After 3 months of complete disaster, they finally had what the Galactic Medical Consortium desperately needed, an actual human specimen. The first contact with humans had gone terribly wrong. The consortium's diplomatic fleet had approached Earth expecting to meet another typical spacefaring species. Instead, they encountered something unprecedented. The humans had fought with a savagery and resilience that defied all known biological principles. Ships that should have been destroyed kept fighting. Crew members who should have died from their injuries continued operating weapons systems. The human vessels had torn through the consortium's advanced fleet like wild beasts. "Doctor, the specimen is ready for transfer," came the voice of Captain Morketh through the communication system. Velnora hurried to the main docking bay where her medical team was already waiting. Dr. Mordan, her chief assistant, stood beside the examination table with his scanning equipment ready. Chief Medical Officer Thainros supervised the transfer crew as they prepared to receive their precious cargo. The airlock hissed open, and the recovery team wheeled in a standard medical transport pod. Through the transparent aluminum cover, Velnora could see the human specimen. It was a male, she determined from the anatomical data they had gathered during the war. The creature was approximately 6 feet in length with pale skin and short brown hair covering the top of its head. "How did you locate it?" Velnora asked Captain Morketh as they moved the pod to the main examination chamber. "Floating in an escape pod near the Kepler 442 system," the captain replied. "The pod's life support had failed days ago. Whatever happened to the human left the body completely intact. No visible trauma, no obvious cause of death." Velnora nodded as they transferred the specimen to the examination table. Her medical scanners immediately began their work, sending waves of energy through the human's body to map its internal structure. The readings that appeared on her displays made her breath catch in her throat. "This is impossible," she whispered. Dr. Mordan looked up from his own scanner. "What are you seeing, Doctor?" "The bone structure," Velnora said, pointing at the display. "Look at this skeletal system. It's made of calcium carbonate deposits. Completely rigid. No flexibility at all. How did these creatures move efficiently with such primitive frameworks?" Thainros joined them at the scanner station. "The cardiovascular system is even more bizarre," he said, highlighting different areas on the display. "They have a 4-chambered muscular pump that forces liquid through a network of rigid tubes. The inefficiency is staggering. Our photosynthetic energy distribution networks are thousands of times more effective." Velnora studied the readings more carefully. Every system in the human body seemed designed in the most wasteful way possible. The digestive system was a single tube that processed nutrients in a linear sequence instead of the efficient parallel processing that every advanced species used. The respiratory system required constant mechanical operation instead of simple atmospheric absorption. Dr. Morden said quietly, "Look at the redundancy patterns." Velnora shifted her scanners to focus on the areas he indicated. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "They have 2 of almost everything. 2 lungs, 2 kidneys, even their brain has duplicate hemispheres. What kind of evolutionary pressure creates such wasteful backup systems?" "Perhaps their homeworld was unusually hostile," suggested Thainros. "But even so, this level of redundancy suggests an environment more dangerous than anything we've encountered in the galaxy." The medical team spent the next several hours documenting every aspect of the human's biology. Each discovery was more puzzling than the last. The creature had no regenerative capabilities whatsoever. A damaged limb would remain damaged permanently. Their immune system relied on creating memory cells for each specific threat instead of the standard adaptive response protocols. Most confusing of all were the brain scans. Even in death, the human's neural tissue showed residual patterns of electrical activity that served no apparent function. The energy pathways formed complex loops and spirals that generated no useful output. "According to our intelligence reports," Dr. Morden said, reading from captured human data files, "they call this phenomenon dreaming. The brain continues consuming energy even during unconscious states, creating elaborate fantasy scenarios." Velnora shook her head in amazement. Completely inefficient. Yet these creatures developed faster than light travel and defeated our most advanced warships. She looked down at the human specimen with a mixture of respect and bewilderment. There must be something we're missing. Some hidden advantage that explains their combat effectiveness. Dr. Thainros was reviewing the battle reports from Proxima. "Our tactical analysis suggested they should have been eliminated within the first hour of engagement. Instead, they fought for 18 hours straight. Ships that registered as destroyed continued firing weapons. Crew members with fatal injuries remained at their posts. Perhaps their primitive systems provide some unexpected benefit, Velnoro mused. The redundancy might allow them to continue functioning even with severe damage. But the energy costs would be enormous. The examination chamber's environmental systems hummed quietly as the medical team prepared for the next phase of their analysis. External scans had revealed the basic structure, but to truly understand human physiology, they would need to study the internal organs directly. Velnoro looked at the peaceful expression on the human's face. Despite everything she had learned about their violent capabilities, the specimen appeared almost serene in death. Soon, they would have the answers the Galactic Medical Consortium needed to understand these impossible creatures. Dr. Velnoro activated the recording system as her medical team gathered around the examination table. The human specimen lay motionless under the bright medical lights, looking deceptively peaceful for a member of such a violent species. Beginning detailed examination of human specimen, she spoke into the recording device. Subject appears to be an adult male, approximately 30 years of age based on cellular degradation patterns. No detectable life signs on any scanner frequency from basic energy detection to quantum cellular analysis. Dr. Mordan positioned his advanced tissue scanner over the human's torso and began the deep structural analysis. Within moments, his expression changed from scientific curiosity to complete bewilderment. Velnoro, these readings cannot be correct, he said, adjusting his equipment. The scanner indicates this creature has two separate filtering organs for blood purification. Two identical organs performing the same function. Dr. Thainrose moved to examine the respiratory system data. The redundancy extends throughout the entire body, he confirmed. Two lungs for gas exchange, two separate brain hemispheres that appear to share cognitive functions, even duplicate sensory organs on opposite sides of the head. Velnoro studied the displays with growing amazement. In all her years studying alien biology, she had never encountered such systematic duplication. Most species evolved toward efficiency, eliminating unnecessary systems to conserve energy. But humans seem to have gone in the opposite direction. Run a simulation, she ordered. Calculate the energy requirements for maintaining all these duplicate systems. The computer's analysis appeared on the main screen within seconds. Dr. Morden stared at the numbers in disbelief. According to this data, humans consume nearly 3 times the energy of a comparable intelligent species. Their metabolic requirements are enormous. Yet they developed space travel, Thainrose pointed out. Somehow, they generated enough surplus energy to build starships while maintaining these incredibly wasteful biological systems. Velnoro moved to examine the human's limbs more closely. The bone structure was unlike anything she had encountered before. Instead of the flexible cartilage framework that allowed most species to bend and flow around obstacles, humans had rigid calcium deposits that could only move at specific joint connections. Look at this locomotion system, she said, highlighting the leg bones on her scanner. They can only bend at predetermined points. No flowing movement, no adaptive reshaping. How did they achieve the speed and agility we observed during the battle? Dr. Mordan was analyzing tissue samples under the quantum microscope. The muscle fibers are equally primitive, he reported. They contract and release using chemical reactions instead of electromagnetic field manipulation. The response time should be far too slow for effective combat. The mystery deepened as they examined each system. The digestive tract was a single linear tube that processed nutrients in sequence rather than the parallel absorption networks that every advanced species used. The circulatory system relied on mechanical pumping instead of electromagnetic field guidance. Even the nervous system used primitive chemical signals rather than efficient quantum entanglement communication. Their healing capabilities are non-existent, Thainrose observed, reviewing cellular regeneration patterns. Damaged tissue remains damaged. They cannot regrow lost limbs or repair major organ failure. Yet our battle reports indicate they continued fighting with severe injuries that should have incapacitated them immediately. Velnoro was studying the brain scans more carefully. The human neural structure was remarkably different from other intelligent species. Instead of the efficient crystal matrix formations that most advanced minds used, humans had a chaotic tangle of individual nerve cells connected by chemical pathways. The processing speed should be impossibly slow, she murmured. These chemical signals take milliseconds to transmit compared to our quantum neural networks. How did they react quickly enough to target our ships? Dr. Mordan had discovered something even more puzzling. Velnoro, look at these energy patterns in the brain tissue. Even in death, there are residual electrical pathways that form complex loops. They serve no apparent function but must have consumed significant energy when the creature was alive. What could they have been for? Thaneros wondered. According to our intelligence files, Velnora said, accessing the captured human data, they called it imagination. The brain would create detailed scenarios that had no connection to reality, purely for its own entertainment. The medical team exchanged glances of amazement. The idea of wasting precious neural energy on fictional scenarios was beyond their comprehension. As the hours passed, each new discovery made humans seem more impossible. Their sensory organs were crude compared to advanced species. They could only see a narrow range of electromagnetic frequencies. Their hearing was limited to basic sound waves. They had no ability to detect magnetic fields, quantum fluctuations, or dimensional variations. How did they navigate space with such limited senses? Dr. Morden asked. They must have relied entirely on mechanical instruments. Perhaps that explains their combat effectiveness, Thaneros suggested. While we trusted our natural abilities, they developed superior technology to compensate for their biological limitations. Velnora was reviewing the complete analysis data. Every human system seemed designed for survival in the harshest possible environment. The redundant organs could maintain function even if half the body was damaged. The rigid skeleton could withstand impacts that would shatter more flexible frameworks. The inefficient but powerful muscle system could generate enormous force when needed. Their homeworld must have been incredibly hostile, she concluded. Only constant life or death pressure could have produced such extreme adaptations for survival. The examination was nearly complete, but Velnora knew they would need internal analysis to understand the final mysteries of human physiology. Tomorrow, they would begin the detailed dissection that would reveal the last secrets of these impossible creatures. Dr. Velnora positioned the surgical laser array with precise movements, making final adjustments to ensure the cleanest possible incision. 18 hours of external examination had revealed the basic structure of human physiology, but the real answers lay inside. The internal organs would tell them how these primitive creatures had somehow defeated the most advanced fleet in the galaxy. All recording systems active, Dr. Morden confirmed from his position at the monitoring station. Atmospheric conditions optimal for tissue preservation. Chief Medical Officer Thaneros stood ready with the specimen collection devices. After months of devastating losses to human forces, the entire Galactic Medical Consortium was waiting for this analysis. 3 admirals, 2 science ministers, and the head of military intelligence were all connected to receive the data in real time. Beginning primary incision on human specimen, Velnora announced to the recording system. Subject continues to show 0 life signs on all scanner frequencies. No cellular activity, no energy flow, no neural function detected. She activated the surgical laser and moved it toward the center of the human's chest. The beam would create a perfect opening that would allow them to examine the heart, lungs, and other vital organs without damaging the surrounding tissue. The laser was inches from the human's skin when the impossible happened. The corpse drew a deep breath. Velnora's hand jerked in shock, and the surgical laser clattered to the floor. The sound of rushing air filled the examination chamber as the human's chest rose and fell in a steady rhythm. Alarms immediately began blaring throughout the medical bay as the ship's monitoring systems detected the sudden appearance of life signs where none had existed moments before. Medical emergency in Examination Bay 7, the ship's automated voice announced. Unknown biological anomaly detected. Security teams to Medical Bay 7 immediately. Dr. Morden stumbled backward from his monitoring station, knocking over a tray of surgical instruments that crashed to the floor with a metallic clatter. Impossible, he shouted over the alarms. He was completely dead. No life signs for 18 hours. The human's arms moved next. He stretched them slowly above his head like someone waking from a comfortable nap. His back arched slightly as he worked out the stiffness in his muscles. Then his mouth opened impossibly wide, showing rows of flat teeth designed for grinding plant matter, and he made the most bizarre sound any of them had ever heard. Yawn. The sound was long and low, like the dying wheeze of some ancient machine. It seemed to go on forever, echoing through the medical bay even over the shrieking alarms. Dr. Thaneros dropped his specimen containers and pressed himself against the far wall, his 4 eyes wide with terror. Security alerts continued to echo through the ship as the human slowly sat up on the examination table. He moved with casual ease, as if rising from the dead was the most natural thing in the universe. His eyes opened and he blinked several times in the harsh medical lighting, looking around at the terrified alien doctors with mild curiosity. "Morning," he said in perfect galactic standard, though his voice was rough and gravelly. Anyone know what time it is? The three doctors stared at him in absolute silence, their scientific minds struggling to process what they were witnessing. According to every law of biology they understood, the human had been clinically dead. Not unconscious, not in some kind of suspended animation, but completely dead with no detectable life functions. The human rubbed his eyes with the back of his hand and looked around the medical bay more carefully. He noticed the surgical equipment, the scanners, the specimen containers, and the expressions of pure terror on the alien faces surrounding him. "And please tell me someone has coffee," he added hopefully. Dr. Velnoro found her voice first, though it came out as barely more than a whisper. "You were dead," she said, her words shaking with disbelief. "Completely dead. No life signs. No cellular activity. No neural function." The human looked at her with amusement. "Dead? No, I don't think so. I feel pretty good actually." He stretched again, working out more kinks in his neck and shoulders. "Though I could really use that coffee. And maybe some breakfast. How long was I out?" 18 hours. Dr. Morden shrieked, his voice cracking with stress. "You showed no life signs for 18 hours. Our scanners detected nothing. You were a corpse." 18 hours? The human looked impressed. "That's got to be some kind of record for me. I must have been really tired." He paused, noticing the surgical laser on the floor and the position of the examination table. "Wait a minute. Were you guys about to cut me open?" The silence that followed was broken only by the continuing security alarms and the sound of running footsteps in the corridor outside. The human looked from one terrified face to another, and his expression slowly changed from casual curiosity to concern. "Oh no," he said quietly. "You thought I was dead, didn't you? You were about to perform an autopsy." Dr. Thaneros nodded weakly, unable to speak. The human ran his hand through his hair and let out a long sigh. "Well, this is awkward. I'm Tom Harris, by the way. Lieutenant Commander Tom Harris of the Earth Defense Force. I was wondering when someone would find my escape pod." He looked around at the sophisticated medical equipment and nodded approvingly. "Nice setup you have here. Very advanced. I'm guessing you're the medical team that's been trying to figure out how humans work." The alarms finally stopped as security teams arrived outside the medical bay. Through the transparent walls, Tom could see armed guards taking defensive positions. "So," he said cheerfully, apparently unfazed by the weapons pointed at him, "anyone want to explain why I woke up in an alien morgue?" Dr. Velnoro's 3 hearts were pounding so hard she could hear them echoing in her chest cavity. Her breathing apparatus worked frantically to supply enough oxygen to her shocked system. The human who had been completely dead for 18 hours was now sitting casually on the examination table, looking around their medical bay with the relaxed attitude of someone who had just woken up from a pleasant nap. "You were dead," she finally managed to scream, her voice breaking with terror and disbelief. "No life signs. No cellular activity. No neural function. Dead for 18 complete hours." Lieutenant Commander Tom Harris scratched his head and looked at her with genuine confusion. "Dead? No way, Doc. I wasn't dead. I was just sleeping." He yawned again, that same impossible sound that seemed to come from somewhere deep in his chest. "Pretty deeply, I guess, if your scanners couldn't pick up my vital signs." Dr. Mordan was hyperventilating, his breathing sacs inflating and deflating rapidly. "Sleeping? Sleeping? You appeared completely lifeless. No energy signature. No biological function whatsoever." "Yeah, I'm a really deep sleeper," Tom said with a shrug. "Especially when I'm exhausted. I'd been awake for about 72 hours straight during that last battle with the Krex forces. When I finally got somewhere safe in that escape pod, I crashed pretty hard." The alien doctors exchanged looks of absolute horror. Dr. Thaneros stepped forward on shaking legs. "You can voluntarily enter a state that mimics death so completely that advanced medical scanners cannot detect life." Tom laughed, a sound that made all 3 aliens jump backward. "It's not voluntary, really. When humans get tired enough, we just shut down for a while. Heart rate drops way down, breathing gets really shallow, brain activity slows to almost nothing. It's called sleep. Every human does it for about 8 hours every day." 8 hours. Velnoro whispered. "You spend 1/3 of your existence in this death-like state." "Pretty much," Tom confirmed. "More if we're really tired or sick. My wife always said I could sleep through a nuclear war." He paused, noticing their expressions of absolute shock. "You guys don't sleep?" Dr. Mordan was reviewing the scanner data with trembling hands. Our species enters a brief meditative trance for energy renewal. 15 minutes of reduced consciousness while maintaining all vital functions. But to completely shut down detectable life signs while remaining alive? That should be impossible. Tom grinned at their amazement. If you think that's impressive, wait until I tell you about some of the other stuff humans can survive. He noticed the surgical equipment scattered around the floor. But first, I'm guessing you were about to cut me open because you thought I was dead. The three doctors nodded weakly, still unable to fully process what they were witnessing. Well, that would have been really bad, Tom said cheerfully. I probably would have woken up during the operation. That would have been awkward for everyone. Dr. Velnora felt her legs giving out and had to lean against the examination table for support. You mean you could have awakened during surgical procedures? Oh yeah, Tom said. Pain tends to wake us up pretty quickly. Though I've heard stories of people sleeping through some pretty intense stuff. My buddy Jake once slept through an artillery bombardment during the war on Centauri Prime. Chief Medical Officer Thaneros was rapidly updating his emergency report to the Galactic Medical Consortium. Tom, your species' ability to survive what appears to be clinical death is unprecedented in galactic biology. Clinical death? Tom looked confused. It's just sleep, Doc. Every mammal on Earth does it. Well, except dolphins. They sleep with half their brain at a time so they don't drown. Half their brain. Dr. Morden's voice cracked again. Yeah, pretty cool, right? Tom stretched his arms and rolled his shoulders. But humans aren't even the most impressive survivors on Earth. You should hear about some of the other stuff that lives on our planet. Dr. Velnora was taking deep, shuddering breaths. What other survival abilities do humans possess? Tom thought for a moment. Well, my grandfather got his leg blown completely off by a landmine in Vietnam and crawled 2 miles through enemy territory to reach help. He lived another 43 years after that. My sister Sarah broke her back in a hovercar accident and the doctors said she'd never walk again. She was back on her feet in 6 months. The alien doctors stared at him in stunned silence. Oh, and there was this guy in the news last year who got struck by lightning 7 times and kept working as an outdoor maintenance supervisor, Tom continued casually. And my neighbor Bob fell off a 30-foot building, broke half the bones in his body, and was back at work in 3 months. Dr. Thaneros was furiously typing notes into his medical pad. These survival capabilities explain the battle reports from Proxima. Our tactical computers calculated that human casualties should have eliminated your forces within the first hour of engagement. Nah, Tom said with a grin. We're pretty tough to kill. Earth's a rough place. You either learn to survive the impossible or you don't make it long enough to have kids. He looked around at their sophisticated medical equipment. Speaking of which, I really should get back to my ship. My crew's probably wondering where I disappeared to. Dr. Velnora watched in amazement as Tom stood up and stretched like someone getting out of bed on a lazy morning. Tom, she called as he headed toward the door, what should we tell the Galactic Medical Consortium about human biology? He paused and looked back at her with that same easy grin. Tell them we're harder to kill than we look. Dr. Velnora's hands trembled as she poured another cup of the dark, steaming liquid that Lieutenant Commander Tom Harris called coffee. The human had already consumed 2 full cups of what should have been a deadly poison to any rational biological system, yet he seemed to be enjoying it immensely. This stuff is fantastic, Tom said, taking another long sip. Almost as good as the coffee we make back on Earth. You guys did a great job analyzing the molecular structure from our ship's supplies. Dr. Mordan watched in horrified fascination as Tom consumed more of the toxic brew. That beverage contains enough caffeine to kill 3 members of our species, yet your system processes it as if it were harmless. Harmless? Tom laughed. Coffee's not harmless. Too much of this stuff can make you jittery, keep you awake for days, even give you heart problems if you really overdo it. But humans have been drinking it for centuries. We build up tolerance. Chief Medical Officer Thaneros was reviewing the updated medical files on his datapad. Tom, help me understand something. You mentioned that your grandfather survived losing a limb and lived for decades afterward. How is that possible without regenerative capabilities? Tom set down his coffee cup and rolled up his left sleeve, revealing a long, jagged scar that ran from his wrist to his elbow. See this? Got it during a boarding action on a Krex destroyer. Piece of shrapnel went right through my arm, severed an artery and damaged the bone. The 3 alien doctors leaned forward to examine the scar tissue with professional interest. Our medical bay patched me up, gave me some synthetic blood to replace what I lost, and put the bone back together with metal pins, Tom continued. I was back on duty in 6 weeks. The arm works fine now, just have to do physical therapy to keep the muscles strong. Dr. Velnora was taking detailed scans of the scar tissue. The healing process appears to involve creating new tissue to bridge the damaged areas rather than regenerating the original structures. Primitive but effective. We call it tough, Tom said with a grin. My buddy Steve got both legs crushed in a mining accident. Doctors replaced them with mechanical prosthetics. Now he runs marathons for fun. Dr. Mordan nearly dropped his scanner. Your species voluntarily replaces biological components with mechanical devices. When we have to, Tom confirmed. Hearts, lungs, kidneys, even parts of the brain sometimes. If something gets damaged beyond repair, we fix it with technology. My great-aunt lived 20 years with an artificial heart after her original one wore out. The implications were staggering to the alien medical team. They had evolved sophisticated regenerative abilities that could regrow damaged tissue, but the idea of integrating mechanical components into biological systems had never occurred to them. This explains the battle reports, Dr. Thainra said quietly. Our tactical analysis indicated that human casualties should have disabled your forces completely. Instead, damaged personnel continued fighting effectively. Pain management and adrenaline, Tom explained. When humans get hurt in combat, our bodies flood with natural chemicals that block pain signals and increase strength and speed. I've seen people fight for hours with injuries that should have put them down. Dr. Velnora was accessing more battle data from the Proxima engagement. Our sensors detected human life signs disappearing from damaged ships, yet weapons fire continued from those vessels. Tom nodded grimly. Probably crew members who went into shock or lost consciousness from their injuries. The ship's automated systems can be programmed to continue fighting even if most of the crew is incapacitated. We design our technology to work around human limitations. But the energy requirements, Dr. Mo_Dan protested. Maintaining all those redundant biological systems while operating advanced technology should be impossible. Earth taught us to be efficient with resources, Tom said. We learned to make the most of what we have because our planet doesn't give us much choice. Hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, ice ages, asteroid impacts, plague outbreaks, predators that hunt in packs. He took another sip of coffee. You either learn to survive anything or your species goes extinct. The medical team exchanged glances. They were beginning to understand that humans weren't just another spacefaring species. They were the product of evolutionary pressures so intense that they had produced something unprecedented in the galaxy. Dr. Thane_Ruz was composing an urgent message to the Galactic Medical Consortium headquarters. Tom, our first contact protocols assumed your species would follow standard biological limitations. We calculated your capabilities based on normal parameters. Big mistake, Tom said cheerfully. Humans don't really do normal. We're kind of the galaxy's weirdos, I guess. Dr. Vel_Nora looked up from her data analysis. The Battle of Proxima wasn't won through superior technology or tactics. You defeated our fleet through sheer biological impossibility. Tom finished his coffee and stood up. We prefer to think of it as being really hard to kill. Earth's been trying to wipe us out for millions of years and we're still here. He paused at the door of the medical bay. By the way, what was your fleet doing at Proxima in the first place? Dr. Thane_Ruz looked embarrassed. Standard conquest protocol. We identified your species as primitive and planned to incorporate your territory into the consortium. Tom's expression grew serious for the first time since he had awakened. And now? Dr. Vel_Nora was already transmitting her updated report. Now we're recommending immediate diplomatic contact. Humans aren't primitive. You're apex survivors, and the Galactic Medical Consortium needs you as allies, not enemies. Tom smiled and headed for the door. Smart choice, Doc. We're much better friends than we are enemies.